Okay, we've got Commissioner Yormark on as well. Looks like we've got both coaches on. Before we get started, I just want to kind of lay out how this can unfold. We're going to start with some opening remarks from the commissioner, both about this Saturday's game and college football playoff. Commissioner will not be available for questions following his remarks. We will go to a Q&A portion with both Coach Dillingham and Coach Campbell. For those of you joining us on Saturday, Commissioner Yormark will be hosting a press conference at 9:45, where he will be available for questions. So I think we're all good there. And Commissioner, I'm going to go ahead and flip it to you.
Clark, I thought we were just going to have a couple of people on this one today.
Yeah, well, you're hot.
Well, I mean, listen, when you have two great coaches, this is what happens. Well, first of all, everyone, thank you for joining us. Exciting week. And as Clark said, I just want to open up with some comments and then, let you speak to the coaches because they're the ones that you want to spend the most of the time today with. First of all, it's hard to believe I'm wrapping up my third football season as commissioner. During this past summer, during media days, I said we'd be the deepest conference in America and that this season would be full of parity. And I think it's fair to say we've over-delivered. The Big 12 season will culminate with two great programs squaring off this Saturday, led by two great coaches. I'm incredibly proud of what Iowa State and Arizona State programs have accomplished this season. I want to congratulate both Coach Dillingham, Coach Campbell on a great season for both of you. Also want to congratulate Graham Rossini, President Crow, Jamie Pollard, and President Winterstein. The leadership at these two institutions is first class. Before I turn things over to the coaches, I want to quickly touch on last night's rankings. As you know, I'm a pretty transparent guy, and I speak what's on my mind, and I'll look to do that right now. The committee continues to show time and time again that they are paying attention to logos versus resumes. I've said that before. I want to say it again. And I say logos because they're concentrating on team logos and conference logos. Strength of schedule should matter. And wins against Power 4 opponents should matter. 74% of the Big 12 wins were against Power 4 opponents this season. Meanwhile, the group of five is 11-80. I want to say that again. 11-80 versus Power 4 teams this season. And in no way should a group of five champion be ranked above our champion. And I'm going to say that one more time. In no way should a group of five champion be ranked above our champion. ASU and ISU each played 10 games against the Big 12, SEC, and Big 10, winning both P4 non-conference games against the SEC and the Big 10, and winning 7 of 9 P4 conference games. Boise played one game against the Big 10 and lost, and that was their only P4 opponent. The committee clearly focuses on the wins and loss column. Going by that principle, no 3-loss team from a Power 4 conference should get a bye over a 2-loss champion from the Big 12. I'm going to say that again. No 3-loss team from a Power 4 conference should get a bye over a 2-loss champion from the Big 12. The format is playing out with the excitement we thought. Many of you have asked me, what do I think about the format and would I change anything? And I'll just restate what I've said earlier this season is that, the 12-team format was something I certainly advocated for. I thought it would create a lot of excitement, a lot of fan engagement, and that November would be a month that would be truly magical just based on all the different scenarios that could play out. And I think that's happened. At the conclusion of the season, obviously, the management committee will come together and we'll figure out what that format should look like moving forward. And do we need to improve it in any way? The one thing that I am concerned about, candidly, And something that I'll address with Richard Clark at the right time is I need to better understand, and I think I speak on behalf of the full management committee and the commissioners. What are the key metrics that are being used as we think about the rankings each week? Because strength of schedule was something that was identified for me early in the fall as a very, very critically important metric. And I'm not sure that has happened, at least to date. So in addition to exploring if there's a better format or not, certainly I think we need to clearly understand what are the key metrics moving forward and how schools will be ranked in the future. Just to close things out again, just so proud of both Arizona State and Iowa State. You guys have proved the doubters wrong. You guys have played at a high level all season long. I am really, really thrilled for this Saturday for an incredible champ game in Arlington at AT&T Stadium. Look forward to seeing many of you that are with us today at that game. And again, coaches, I wish you both well and look forward to seeing you this weekend. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner, for your remarks. We'll go ahead and get to the Q&A portion with both head coaches. If you could use the hand raise function and once called upon, identify yourself and your outlet, that'd be great. So go ahead and use the hand raise function and I'll make sure and call on you. Not, here we go. Chaz, I'm sorry, go ahead, please.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah,
There we
well, good, go ahead.
Yeah, this one's for Kenny. Chaz Messman, KYMA TV. Kenny, Shalama Taylor is a guy that throughout the season has really started to progress and become more a factor in the offense. I guess obviously with being a late addition to this team, how have you seen him grow not only with Sam, but as a member of this locker room? And obviously without Jordan, he's going to be a big part on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, he's just a great person, first and foremost. He's a competitor. He's always cracking jokes, but he has that great balance. And, you know, he's loose, but he's competitive and he blocks people well. And we tell people, if you don't block people, no block, no rock. And I think he's proven that he's going to block people. And the more you block people, the more we want to give you the ball and reward you. So I think that's been part of the process throughout the year is he's earned the right to get the ball more and to continue to get the ball more just because he's playing really, really hard. And that's something that I believe in is that you reward the people that, you know, play the game the way I think it should be played. So his relationship with Sam's definitely still growing too, but I'm just glad he's on our football team. Spring portal's hard to get good impact players out of. I think he was one of the guys that was successful for us.
For any other additional questions, if you have any trouble using the hand raise function, just go ahead and identify yourself with your question. Stephen Hawkins from AP, go ahead.
Hey, this is for Matt. Was going to ask you just the idea that you guys kind of stumbled a little bit and lost a couple games. Just talk about how your team's kind of recovered and just kind of the mode going into this game.
Yeah, I think every football season has adversity, and obviously we came upon it in early November. We had some really tough injuries that hit us, and some young guys had to step up, and I think we were able to weather the storm. A lot of the credit I would give for our football team is our senior leadership really helped navigate that little rough patch, and I really felt like we were able to get ourselves through it, and the last 3 weeks really started to play good football again. So I think from our end of it, we've been built with great senior leadership here, and they've been phenomenal since the month of January in terms of how they've led in the off season, how they've led through fall camp, how they've led really through the entirety of the year. And they were the guidepost out of that rough patch. So it's been a joy for me to be able to lead with that group. And it's been really fun to watch this group really kind of work through adversity and get themselves right back on track.
You were in this game not too long ago. What do you take from that experience and getting back to Arlington?
Yeah, I think our experience was unique. Obviously, the last time we were here was the 2020 season with COVID. So, there were, I think just the uniqueness of obviously playing in Arlington and playing on that stage. But I think this time around, obviously a lot different with, fans in the stands and, playing another great opponent, obviously with what Coach Dillingham and his team has done. But I think it's different for sure, and maybe the same in some other ways. But we only got 3 kids that were on that team the last time we were there. So I think anytime you have history, you try to use it the best way you can. But I think a unique experience this time around for sure.
All right. Appreciate you, man.
Thank you.
Tom Forbes, go ahead.
Hi, Tom Forbes with C-Trade Sports. Matt, I just have a question about the injury updates for Ben Brommer and Dylan Barrett.
Yeah, I think Dylan for sure, probably will not be available for the game. Ben is a question mark still. Kind of have been progressing through the last couple of weeks, was able to at least be back out on the practice field this week, but I would say it'll be a game time decision.
And Rocco Beck, he's going to be good for this game?
Yes, I hope so.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Great. Next question. Hand raise or go ahead and just speak while identifying yourself and your outlet. If you don't, I'm going to call on you, make it awkward.
I'll go ahead. Hey, Kenny, this is Stephen Hawkins with the AP in Dallas. Just talk about the unique experience of coming to Arlington, a place I guess none of your guys have ever been to or played at.
Yeah, it'll definitely be unique, to be there. A lot of our guys are from Dallas, so they grew up from the Texas area wanting to play in the Big 12 championship game. Like, this was their game. They grew up watching, they grew up cherishing playing in the Big 12 championship. So for them to be able to go home playing this game that they grew up watching is something that they're going to remember for the rest of their life. And I'm happy that we get to do that for them and for our seniors and the guys who have kind of battled through the crazy times here. So it's another game for us from an away game perspective. There's not much more from that, but the moment of the game being a Big 12 championship game for those guys from that area is special.
A lot obviously has been made about where you guys were picked and where you guys are right now. But when you look at Iowa State and a coach that's been there for a long time, a team that's had success in this league, what do you take out of when you look at Iowa State?
Yeah, consistency in the program. I tell people all the time, consistency wins. And the consistency that Coach Campbell's built there, you know what you're going to play. And when you know the people you're going to play, those are the scariest teams to play because they have an identity. When you don't know what you're going to see on game day, those are the games I'm most comfortable. But when you know what you're going to get, that's when it's like, okay, boys, these guys, they have an identity of a program that wasn't just thrown together in 9 months. It was put together over a career of his career, which is incredible. And you can see the identity of his football team come, his identity is his football team. And that's why he's having an unbelievable amount of success there. 10-win team. I mean, it's phenomenal football coach, phenomenal program.
Thanks, Kenny.
Guys, I hate to interrupt because I said I wasn't going to say anything, but I need to say one last thing. A lot has been said about where Arizona State was picked before the season. And I've said this once before, but I want to restate it. The early season polls and the preseason polls really don't mean much anymore with the transfer portal. No one knows what they have until you're well into the season. Roster management has changed. And I think we're going to see that more and more, not just in football, but in some of the other sports as well. So, as we think about where people were picked preseason, let's not use that against anyone. Because candidly, it means less now than ever before, just because of the portal and what roster management is today versus what it's been in the future. So just wanted to state that.
Okay. Any other question for either coach? Okay, well, I'm gonna open up Brett for just a question or two, but Coach Dillingham, Coach Campbell, thank you very much for your time. You're welcome to stay on and listen to Brett espouse his beliefs, but I know you're both busy men, so feel free to jump and get back to the game plan for Saturday. But again, thank you for your time and can't wait to have you and your staff both here in Arlington this Saturday. We'll start on questions for the commissioner. We're just going to do a few, but we'll start with Stu. Stu Mandel.
Hey, Brett. I just wanted
Hey,
to follow
Stu,
up.
how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, thank you.
Just wanted to follow up on what you said about being told, I guess, early in the season about the importance of strength of schedule. Was that conversations you had with members of the committee or with Rich or who? And kind of how was that described to you?
That was in the fall meeting, fall kickoff meeting. It's the CFP meeting. And we talked a little bit about what some of the key metrics would be. And strength of schedule was reiterated more than once as a key metric. And I just haven't seen that come into play as much as it should be. And I'm going to continue to press that home.
And when you say you haven't seen that, are you referring specifically to the group of five versus Power
Well,
Five?
I just think generally speaking, strength of schedule should matter. Listen, conferences play different number of games. We play 9 conference games, plus we mandate a 10th against a P4 opponent. Okay. So strength of schedule matters. How many P4 opponents you're playing matter. And it needs to be part of the larger conversation. And for some reason or not, I don't think it's been as weighted as heavily as it should.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Max, we'll go ahead with you. If you don't mind identifying your outlet too.
Yeah, absolutely. Hello, Commissioner. I'm Max Cepeda with the Walter Cronkite Sports Network in Phoenix. Specifically, when you were discussing kind of the parity, you've talked about it since July, how you appreciate the parity of this league, how it's one of the things that you hold most proud about this league. Can you just kind of discuss what your opinion is about how you feel like the parity of this league is going to benefit the league going forward with this new 12-team format from what you've seen from the committee? And if not, do you necessarily feel like that the parity is maybe necessarily a problem, or do you feel like that it is more of a benefit to this league, considering how every single team, like teams like Arizona State, go from last to first in that situation?
Well, I think parity matters, and I think it shows the overall strength of the conference from top to bottom. But I did state earlier in the season, at some point in time, you get some of the schools to, kind of separate themselves. But I think it first starts, and when you think about the phasing of the competitive nature of a conference, it starts with parity and balance, and then ultimately over time, you do get those schools that break away or separate, and are part of the conversation year in and year out when you think about some of the best programs in the country. But I do think it played to our benefit this year. Certainly the month of November was an incredible month for us. When you think of the down to the wire finishes, you think about our ratings, you just think about overall fan engagement, interest. As you know, we had we had many different scenarios going into that last weekend, but really 9 schools that were in contention, which was great, and obviously highlighted by the 4. So I think this year parity was very much a positive, but I do anticipate that over time, certain schools will ascend to the top, and that's just the natural evolution of what will go on in this conference.
And just a quick follow-up for that, Commissioner. Do you feel like that with that being kind of something that you feel like is a great thing for the league, and having all that competitiveness and having the last weekend be so kind of unpredictable of who is going to be in this game, do you think that kind of a precedent year in and year out with how the playoff format operates and what you've seen and maybe your grievances toward it, do you feel like that's a scenario that you hope is not necessarily repeated year in and year out, or do you feel like that's better for the league's perception possibly as a whole?
Well, I mean, listen, great question. And I do think depth matters. But I firmly believe that over time, as I said before, we'll maintain, the competitive balance across the conference. But I do anticipate that schools will ascend to the top and will be part of the national conversation year in and year out. So I don't know if what went on this year will be what ultimately transpires a few years down the road. But right now, I think parity and balance is great. But I do anticipate, again, for schools to go to the top and we'll see what happens ultimately.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Nicole, we'll go to you next.
Yeah, Brett, I just wanted to follow up on when you were talking about brands over resumes. Do you think that there is enough trust and faith in the committee and its process, even without more transparency, that people will accept the final bracket from them? I mean, there's been a lot of backlash to even the in-season rankings.
Well, listen, I've said it also. Although I might disagree in what has transpired, I have a lot of faith in the committee that they'll ultimately get it right come Sunday. That is my hope, and I'm going to stick with it. But obviously, I challenge what I've seen to date, and again, I'm going to lean on strength of schedule. I don't think it's played out the way it should. But I do have trust in the committee that ultimately we'll land where we're supposed to land. And, that ultimately will mean we'll get a bye, which we're deserving of based on all the key metrics that should come into play. But ultimately, it will come down to the selection committee making that decision, but I'm hopeful it'll be the right one.
Okay, thank you, Nicole. We've got time for one more. Ryan Myers, go ahead.
Hey, Commissioner Ryan Myers, Devil's Digest. For you, you talked a lot before the season about having these new Pac-12 teams into the conference this year and seeing two teams, one in the Big 12 championship game and another that was right there on the wire. What do you make of this first season of these new teams inserted into the Big 12 and how they've kind of integrated in overall?
Well, listen, great question again. For me, the number one priority was that these four schools come in here and feel at home and are well integrated into our ecosystem. And I think that's played out. I mean, I've gotten to know the four schools really well, the coaches, the administrators. I think they've made a great adjustment into the conference. And obviously, many of the schools have, competed at a very high level, specifically Colorado and Arizona State. And I do think all four programs are going to excel being members of the Big 12. I'm excited about the future, not only of the conference, but specifically of the four schools that joined. So I thought, for a first football season at 16, it went extremely well.
Okay. Really appreciate everyone's time today. For those of you who will be at AT&T Stadium on Saturday, please know we'll do another morning press conference with the commissioner as we usually do. That will kick off at 9:45 in the home team locker room. For those of you who will not be there on Saturday, unfortunate, but you know where to find me if you need anything. But really appreciate everyone's continued coverage and attendance today. Have a great day. Thanks, everyone.